Hello, I'm Barbara Flourish, Director of the Grantsmanship Center. In this mini-webinar, we'll take a quick look at how to understand federal grant application guidelines. The proposal format that was developed by the Grantsmanship Center over 30 years ago is now the standard in the field, and that format includes 8 sections. Each section of the format represents a category of information that is required to produce a thorough and complete grant proposal. When you understand the information categories that are part of our proposal format, then you can translate all application guidelines, including federal application guidelines. So let's start by looking at the 8 categories of information. First, there's the summary. The summary is a snapshot of the entire proposal. It provides the reader with a context. It is the first thing that the reader sees, and it is the last thing that the proposal writer prepares. The introduction of the applicant organization tells the reader what your organization is and what it does. And this section documents the qualifications and achievements of your organization that prove that it is competent to implement the program that you'll propose later in the grant proposal. The problem section is actually the heart of the proposal. This section tells the reader why your organization is seeking a grant. It describes and documents the situation that concerns your organization and is motivating the grant proposal. Program outcomes are specific, measurable statements about how your organization expects the problem described in Section 3 to change as a result of the program you plan to implement. Section 5, methods. Methods tell the reader what your organization is going to do to produce the program outcomes. Methods describe your service approaches, activities, and describe the time frame within which you'll be delivering your services. The evaluation plan describes the process your organization will use to assess program implementation and to determine whether or not the program is indeed producing the program outcomes described in Section 4. Future support describes how you plan to continue the program after the grant runs out. Funders view grants as investments, and so should we all. This section describes the finances, the resources, the support that you expect to bring in to continue the program. The budget is a detailed estimate of the expenses and other resources that will be required to run the program. One reason it can be difficult to interpret application guidelines is because the terms used by funders are widely variable. The category of information that we call the summary may be called an abstract, overview, or synopsis. The category of information describing the applicant organization may be called any number of things, including organizational history. What we call the problem may be called a problem statement or a needs assessment. Program outcomes may be called objectives, goals, results, impact, program aims, outcome objectives. This category of information can be particularly confusing because so many terms are used interchangeably by different funders. The method section may be called program approach or program design. The evaluation section could be called plan to measure. Future support is often referred to by funders as sustainability, and the budget may simply be called expenses. Let's take a short quiz. These 3 paragraphs come from a set of federal application guidelines. The first paragraph ask the proposal writer to identify evidence-based services or practices you will implement and discuss how they address the purpose, goals, and objectives of the project. This category of information is what the Grantsmanship Center format calls methods, because it is asking the grant proposal writer to describe what the applicant organization will do. And anything that an applicant organization will do or provide or offer is a method. Let's look at the second paragraph. Describe the nature of the problem and document the extent of the need, e.g. current prevalence rates or incidence data. And it goes on to request more data and is interested specifically in the reliability and validity of the data. Well, the first sentence in this short paragraph gives it away. Certainly this paragraph is soliciting the category of information that we call the problem. This paragraph was only one brief paragraph within a much larger request for information concerning the problem. But what's interesting here is the specific data that's being requested. It's not unusual, and if you were to respond in a general rather than specific way, you would not score well. The last paragraph, discuss capability and experience of applicant organization and other participating organizations with similar projects and populations. Well, this is the category of information that the Grantsmanship Center calls Introduction of the Applicant Organization. And what's important to note here is not only is the funder interested in the experience of the actual applicant, but the funder also wants to see some documentation or demonstration that other participating organizations are also experienced with a particular sort of program and the population that will be served. When you get federal application guidelines, they can seem a little overwhelming. They're often long, they're often complicated. So the first rule is to take your time. Sit down with a cup of coffee or two, a cup of tea, a handful of various colored markers, some sticky notes, and don't just read those applications, the application guidelines, study them, dissect them. Use your understanding of the basic 8 categories of information to understand the questions the funder is asking, to understand the sorts of information the funder is soliciting. And remember, some questions may include more than one category of information. Always follow the funder's directions and always answer the funder's questions very specifically. I hope this helps. Goodbye.